Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of My Violent Tendencies with me, Marvelous Matt Nix. I don't know why I said it like that. Um, and I have not posted an episode in quite some time. I've been going through a bit of a transitional period, so to speak, in my life. And, I've had people reaching out to me, just making sure that I'm okay, making sure that, that I'm still alive. And I have to say, unfortunately, to some people, I am still alive. Um, that's a weird thing to say, but I have not posted an episode in a while, and it has been on my list of things that I wanted to start doing again. I have this beautiful little podcast set here built that I have not been utilizing, and and a lot of people that I've been meaning to sit down and talk to, and had a lot of weird, interesting things been happening recently. So, yeah, enough rambling. Yeah. So what's been going on, Nick? Nick, Freelance had our 11th year anniversary show last week. That was honestly probably one of the best anniversary shows that we've had in quite some time. On paper, we were looking at the card and just, I'm like, man, this is like, there is no misses on any of these matches here. And every year, not to anybody's like lack of effort or anything, but there's always like at least one match that's kind of like, oh, it was okay. But this year, I felt like every match delivered, and we had an incredible opportunity to have Benny the Bull show up and make an appearance on a freelance wrestling show. To anybody that is not aware of the legend of Benny the Bull, like, for anybody who's grown up in Chicago as or a Chicago Bulls fan, Benny the Bull is the Chicago Bulls mascot. And as far as mascots go, I feel like he's like the top tier, like, representation of like what a mascot is supposed to be. I know that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but like, I just feel like whenever you see like Benny doing things, like just videos of Benny, just at random events, or just kind of like doing like crazy acrobats, or like stunts and stuff at games. Um, he's got more outfits than I do, it seems. But yeah, and add one of those random things that Benny kind of gets into as showing up at a freelance wrestling show. Um, and that was just awesome. Just awesome in general for like having that kind of crossover, mainstream crossover stuff on an independent wrestling show. That's always, you know, great to have, that kind of, we get that kind of rub. It only helps us, with exposure, and it most definitely did. But just, like I said, the legend of Benny the Bull, growing up as a Chicago Bulls fan, especially in the 90s when the Bulls were at their peak. And yeah, to have just like a piece of that Chicago history, um, you know, be a part of our Chicago history, and kind of having that little, you know, not necessarily a passing of the torch, but like to get that kind of nod from, a legendary sports franchise mascot to our little freelance wrestling show, and kind of giving us that, hey, you guys are pretty cool. Like, we'll show up here and, crossbody Calvin Tankman. And poor Tankman, man. I mean, not only did he get beat up, not only did he lose the match, but he got beat up by Benny the Bull. And I'm pretty sure he's a Indiana Pacers fan, and they had just lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals a couple days before, maybe. So still pretty fresh wounds there for Calvin Tankman. But, that's going to be one of those moments where, it was definitely one of those moments where, like, James looked over at me and said, "Did you ever think you were going to have Benny the Bull at a freelance wrestling show?" And I have to admit that that was never on my bingo card for, you know, anything, let alone, showing up and being on the same in the same room as Benny the Bull, or I guess I've been in the same room as him before, being at games and such. But like, to be rubbing shoulders with legends like that was pretty cool. Um, but no, I mean, like 11 years, freelance wrestling anniversary, 11 years. Um, I know we just celebrated the 10-year last year, obviously, and that was such a, you know, important milestone and was really cool. Alex Storm put together that incredible collage of people who've been on freelance shows, and looking at it right now, it's across the room from me. Um, just to like to keep going beyond that. It's always like, awesome, we got to this point, on to the next one. But it is fun to like to be able to like reflect, every now and again. And I choose, it's easy to kind of do that around like, big shows. Our anniversary show every year is in June. Um, I always say it's our quote unquote WrestleMania. That's like our, to me, it's an important event. At the anniversary, celebrating the creation of this company, and a lot of great matches have happened on those shows. People have like really, come to really want to deliver on those events, and so it's really easy to kind of reflect on events like that. Um, and this year, 11 years, with the Benny the Bull thing, that was something really special. To kind of like pinpoint on that event. But I mean, just seeing some of the amount of talent on the show this year that was like either like local talent or freelance wrestling academy students that have earned their spots on the card there. And Reagan and Devon was such a great fun match. I know Reagan was not feeling too great earlier in the day, but she toughed it out and delivered, and uh, she's such a fun story that we've seen coming up through the ranks. It's fun to be able, like I've said this before on here, to be able to see like people's careers kind of start from the beginning, and like see, oh, I was there for their like first match, or I remember when her first day at training, when she started with us. And like it is really, I don't know if gratifying is the right word, but like, not that I had anything to do with her success necessarily, because I'm not one of the trainers, but it is really, it makes me proud to be like, oh, she's a product of our school, of our company. um and she's a great person too. Like, she's a joy to have in the locker room, and she works really really hard, and we you know definitely wanted to keep rewarding that, and you know came up short that freelance wrestling world championship. But that's not to say that there won't be other opportunities in the future. Just got to keep on grinding. I have to have her on a show. We'll talk about that at some point. But um, yeah, and then gosh, Coda versus Ali in the main event was, you know, probably like the one of the almost ultimate culmination moments of like, student who's been on the rise, and then like, local local legend in Mustafa Ali. Uh, his rise to the top in freelance in the year that he was with us before he signed with WWE, and then gone on to superstardom there, and to be able to come back and return that kind of like love and respect to some of the kids here that are like working their asses off. And Coda, I know, trains with Ali, and he has a lot of respect for him too. But they really brought out the best in each other, I think. And and it showed. And Coda being anointed the new Prince of Chicago is a really big honor, and I know he doesn't take that lightly, and he's gonna defend his throne as well as he can, and I'm excited to see where that goes, and you know the challenges that he'll be met with. So we'll see. But man, I can't talk about this anniversary show without talking about Isaiah Velasquez and this being his last match ever. Probably. No, it's probably going to be his last match. He's very adamant about that. But you know, I don't even know what I can say about Isaiah. You know, when I started training, when I started training with Boz in 2009, 2010, um, a lot of the Vanguard guys were coming up there as well, to get some ring time in, and Isaiah's amongst them, and we just kind of like our group of Castro, Sutra, Craig, Olson. We kind of gravitated towards those guys because they were closer to our age. They were more into the style of wrestling that we were into, and you know they were always like super helpful. And Isaiah was always like, yeah, if you want to like get some extra training, come to like Vanguard shows. You can help set up the ring, and then like we do a little bit of training before the show. So we definitely, we took advantage of that as often as we could. And Izzy's always been like a big brother to me, a dad sometimes. Um, without him and James, there wouldn't be any freelance, current day freelance at least. They did a lot, to kind of help. I don't want to say pick up the pieces, but when I kind of really needed a time to step back and take care of myself and my my mental health, and still do. And I'm honestly blessed and honored to have friends like them that are willing to be there for me, and for freelance, and to help continue the legacy of this promotion, because it's bigger than just me. It's bigger than just any individual person. It's grown to this thing that's not to toot my own horn, but it's a very important thing in wrestling now for so many people, and for it to go away would be detrimental to some, but like it's important to have this platform for our students and for our fans. And yeah, those guys really they're really the two that make the ball roll. So I could not say enough good things about Isaiah and James. Um, love those guys. But God, this I don't want to keep rambling on about this show. I'm trying to think of what other things have been going on that I'm able to not able to talk about, but that I want to talk about. Um, Gosh, I've been getting into a lot of reading. Um, I'm not like a huge astrology person per se, but I've kind of been reading up on astrology, and kind of like how that balances out with like your energy of the moon and all this stuff. And I sound like probably like an idiot. If you know anything about astrology, please teach me. Or if you want to come on here and talk to me about astrology, I would love that, because I'm curious. I want to learn a little bit more about this. These weird, like very specific horoscope type predictions that genuinely kind of shook me. So it kind of made me a believer. I don't know. I'm willing to kind of give anything a shot sometimes. So I like to keep an open mind. And yeah, I mean, like I've always been like, this is actually kind of interesting. I've always been like super interested in like aliens, UFO stuff. If you know me, you know. Um, and if you don't, just go back on any past episodes of here. I'm sure I've been ranting about something, but um, very interesting. I've never really been like a very religious person or like I don't want to say like I would always describe myself as more of an agnostic person than anything because I think to just definitively say that there is no God is a little like ins not a little, it's insanely like what's the word? Just you're it's very definitive and like just to be like that confident that you know that there is nothing. I don't know. Like I just don't think that there's enough evidence to definitively prove one way or the other. If anything, I would argue that there's more proof to prove that there is some sort of divine powers at play. It's in some way, but I've definitely fallen down some certain rabbit holes involving like the UFO phenomena and like its connection to like spirituality and like there's always been like stories throughout history of people who um would talk about like or even in the Bible, I believe there's a lot of stories of like people talking about their interactions with like angels and like the description of like a biblically accurate angel is like this grotesque like creature that has like eyes and feathers and all this stuff and like it's you know the conceptualization of early human mind, maybe that is what they were able to, interpret from like a higher dimensional being or something like that. But um, there's been like a lot of stories coming out of these like whistleblowers from like UAP like crash retrieval teams that go out on these like assignments to like retrieve downed UAP. And that's not even necessarily to say that they're definitively saying that it is alien of origin. They're just saying that they don't know where it came from and it crashed, and they're going to pick it up and try to find out. And one of these whistleblowers tells this story about how he's like flying up onto this flying this helicopter to like pick up this downed craft that looks like an egg, and he's just kind of hit with this like overwhelming feeling of emotion, like not sadness, but like so much like a powerful feeling of love. And it was like overwhelming to him where he was like his eyes were like welling up and like he just like he said it felt like his mother like hugging him. And they there's people that kind of theorize that there's a spiritual connection with these UAPs that like only like certain type of people are like sensitive to feeling anything or like interpreting any kind of messages. Um, but there's also like further down the rabbit hole, they talk about how people who are a little bit more psychically inclined or just sensitive that way. There's ways that you can like mentally summon these UFO craft or whatever, and that potentially that is like the key to like even how these things work or like how they're being controlled. Um, I don't know. It's like it's incredibly interesting stuff. Whether or not you believe it or not, like just to kind of hear the stories that these people are telling, and I mean these are like genuine like people from like military background or high ranking government officials that are going on record and talking about the stuff that they firsthand witnessed or like encountered. And it it genuinely changes the way you look at things sometimes. And I think, I've always been like one to kind of play on the edge of conspiracy, because it's fun. Everybody loves a good conspiracy theory. Um, but the more I think, the more I realize it, you kind of see that the conspiracies tend to be more true than not, or more times than not, rather. But I don't know. I just think we're gonna learn very soon that a lot of our history was wrong, or at least told to us wrong, maybe intentionally, maybe not. I like to always say, you only know what you know. You only know the information that you were given, and that person that gave you that information, they only gave you that information because maybe that's all they knew, or that they thought was correct information to continue giving down, or it was a direct you know um, change in information, or like changing that narrative. But whether if that's the case, then obviously you're being lied to, and I think in many cases that's the truth, in our lives currently. But some of it may genuinely be just stuff in history that we learn that we were just wrong. And I think a lot of academics tend to not want to admit that, because let's face it, you're spending your entire life studying ancient Babylonian text, or the Mayan Empire, and you dedicated 50, 60 years of your life into this, something that you think is the truth, and then it turns out that you could have been wrong. Unfortunately, a lot of those people are going to fight tooth and nail to keep whatever uh, of their work, I would say, is the truth, and nothing but the truth. And that sucks, because I feel like in the search for knowledge, you should be excited to be wrong. At least I think that way. In the search for knowledge, you just you just want to know. Everybody wants to know the origin of humanity, or like the meaning of life, or like how things happened throughout history, whether or not they happened the way that the history books say. But it's incredible to be able to like have that opportunity to be like, oh shit, we thought it was this way this whole time, and it turns out it was this. Now we get to learn about this. Like, I don't know. I think that's awesome. Like, I love whenever I see like an article or something being like, oh, like new discovery, like this, scientists previously thought this, and then now they think this, and I'm just like, hell yeah, man, keep thinking. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird that way. But I think we should be more inclined to admit that we're wrong more often. I think that's the goal for 2025, is just to admit you're wrong more often. I know that's something that I definitely needed to do more often, and I will. But yeah, everybody else, you guys did the same thing. Uh, I don't know. I'm not gonna keep on rambling here. This is just me, uh, letting everybody know that I'm still alive. I'm still here. Uh, and I just want to talk about. I do want to say that I am very grateful for my friends. I don't think I necessarily say that enough anymore. Uh, my defense mechanism that I unfortunately have when I'm kind of going through some shit is to just kind of disappear and pull back, and you know just kind of like do my own thing, I guess. I just kind of want to like. I don't want to bother anybody. I don't like to bother people with with my shit. Um, which is stupid because I know how much I love to help people like with their shit. Like if anybody's going through anything, I'm always here. I'm always an ear to bend. If you ever need to hit me up, I'm damn near always awake. But um, I love helping people. I love that feeling of being able to help somebody, with their problems or just just to talk to somebody. But for some reason, I can't accept that from other people. And I know that I'm not alone in that. I know that that's probably very common, especially in men, because for some reason we got to be super fucking tough guys and and not talk about our feelings. And that's not the case. I mean, I do have people that I do talk to when I need to, but um, my thought process is that I'm like overly considerate, that I'm always thinking that like, hey man, everybody's going through their own shit. And that's not to discredit my own feelings and stuff or anybody else's. Um, but it's just that like I don't want to weigh somebody else down with my stuff when I know that they're going through their own shit, or like, you know, maybe they're not. I just don't want to, you just don't want to be a nuisance and stuff. But that's not a healthy way to live either. And I do have a lot of good friends that are willing to be there, and I need to remember that. And you should too, if you're listening to this. Anybody that needs to hear that, um, because you can't spend all your time wallowing in your own shit and feeling sorry for yourself, and wanting people to feel sorry for you, because it ain't gonna happen. Like you gotta pull yourself up from your bootstraps, for lack of a better term, and you got to put in the effort, and you got to let people help when they want to. You can't push people away from you, because you're just gonna keep drowning, and eventually the lifeguards are just gonna stop coming to save you, and you're just gonna have to learn how to swim on your own. But I am very grateful for my friends, and that's gonna be the other theme for this year, the summer of friendship. I'm definitely gonna make more of an effort to be more of a friend, uh, do more stuff with friends, podcasts with friends. Um, yeah, this might be the last summer we ever have, guys. We're on the precipice of World War III. Uh, the future's not looking very bright for us. We only have, you know, as cliche as this sounds, we only have today sometimes. So make the most of it, and be grateful. Be grateful for your friends. Be grateful for your family. Um, be grateful to be able to live your dream, if you are living your dream. Um, and just be grateful that you get to wake up every day and try. And yeah, I don't know. We'll end on that, I guess. I love you guys so much. I don't know when the next episode's gonna be coming out, but I really quick. I know we have a freelance academy show at the Bridgeview Park District in my hometown, Bridgeview, Illinois, on the south side of Chicago. Um, Beautiful Park District building. It's where I went and saw my first independent wrestling show. That's Saturday, the 18th of July. Friday, the 18th of July. Um, Go to our social medias to find the tickets for that. And we got freelance back at Emporium in Logan Square on July 24th. I definitely knew that by heart. I didn't look that up. Back at the Emporium, love those shows. This is gonna be a fun one. Uh, so yeah, buy some tickets, come hang out. Um, this is weird. I've never done like a fucking full one man show podcast like this in a while. Um, if it wasn't too bad, maybe I'll do more. If you guys liked it, I guess I don't know. Let me know if you wouldn't mind more single episodes. Um, I definitely got some shit to say about fucking the Bears and stuff, but I'll hold that off for another time. We could probably do a whole series on that. But all right, if you don't follow me already, follow me at the Matt Nicks, TheMattKnicks on pretty much everything. Follow me on TikTok, motherfuckers. I'd be doing some fucking fit check videos that are fun and cute little ways that I found to express myself. Um, yeah, I don't know. Have a great weekend. Love you guys. Bye bye.